Hi everyone, happy Easter.
Hello there.
Welcome to a FaceHAMMER live stream. So thanks everyone for coming and joining us on this Easter Sunday. And we're going to be talking about Flesh Eater courts and Nighthaunt army lists. So hopefully everyone's excited.
Yeah, you're pretty heavily qualified for this, right, Russ?
Yeah, I've played quite a bit with Nighthaunt and Feck. A long time ago though. I think I tend to been doing over the last few years is I tend to be doing like a one and done approach, or I play like one event, shift to a different allegiance, do another event. So I've been a bit of an army slut.
You have like certain aspects of the armies, like Spirit Host, for example, or Mortis engines. You have had as recurring themes, though, right? Or Terrorgeists.
Yeah, well, I've cycled Spirit Host through Grand Alliance Death, Legion of Sacrament, Legion of Blood, and Nighthaunt. So they're kind of like a recurring theme for me that I will touch
an
on
underrated recurring theme.
Yeah, there's a few things that Nighthaunt kind of bug me. I played like an event with them, and I found that
Which one of the 4 battle scrolls are you upset with?
To be honest, there's lots of them, but there might as well be 4. So no, I'm not going to bang on them, but there's a lot of stuff that does a very similar thing in a slightly different way.
Yes.
And I think the Grimghast Reaper, Legion, and the Gash nerf hit Nighthaunt, and it probably shouldn't have touched them. Because it was a bit
that was. I mean, it shouldn't have really hit death that much. I don't think it was a bit spammy, but I think a little bit of adjustment could have stopped it being so over the top for death.
I think the issue was it was just
repetitive.
It was just graveyards getting D3 Grimghast Reapers back. There's no viable combat battle line in Legion apart from Grimghast, so everyone took Grimghast. Therefore, it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. It didn't help that the weekend that we discussed the points, because people that don't know, I'm part of the playtest team, and we sat down at head office and talked about this. A couple of weeks before was Blood and Glory, and I think it was Death was 1, 2, 3, and I won that with a mixed Death Legion of Sacrament, and I think there was another Arcan list on there, and then basically like Necromancers, Direwolves, Grimghasts, Arcan all went up. I think my army gained like 280 points, something ridiculous, and it was
interesting that type of stuff, isn't it? Because 1, 2, 3s can happen. I mean, not that Tzeentch shouldn't have got hit, but when you hear that Tzeentch came 1, 2, 3 at an event, something like that, it's hard to not have a very strong reaction.
Yeah, I get that, but I think with like Blood and Glory, it's such a big event because it's like 200 people. Like you can play 5 rounds. I think it was a 5-round event as well. You can literally get there without facing anything like uber competitive. I mean, I had to vanquish Daughters with Tom Maudsley in the last round, and I hand on heart got a little bit lucky, but you know that's Warhammer. But the point is that I think what you need to look at is you need to look at the spread. So one of the things that I always this is why the whole stat thing kind of annoys me a little bit. I'm not going to rant about it, but it's useful as an indicator, but you've got to take it with a pinch of salt because there's a lot of variables and
like what scenarios were rolled.
Yeah, who you played,
18 scenarios,
what war scrolls you took,
right?
What realm you're in, what did you go out drinking the night before, all that kind of shit. So did you have to leave early? Did you sleep in because you were doing other things?
Stop it. Anyway, if people wonder what I'm eating, by the way, this is the belly button of a vegan white chocolate bunny. Just, if they needed that information.
Link in the description below. No, I'm kidding. Click through the banner.
Because One Blood and Glory, they rolled 4 out of 5 scenarios as aggro turn 1 army preferential ones, and there was just this crazy jump in Deepkin results. There was like 7 in the top 20. And people were like, oh my God, people have understood them. They're on top of the meta. And it was like just F all to do with that. Like absolutely, literally nothing to do with that. There happened to be 2 strong or experienced players of them at the event. They probably would have done well anyway. And then like 6 or 7 other people who, it could have been for other reasons, but it was probably because there was 4 scenarios that really heavily gave preference to armies that could stand turn 1 on objectives and win.
Yeah, 100%. And like, it was funny because hi Tinsdale, he's in the chat. I actually played James with Deepkin at that event, and
Right.
I ended up playing
Speaking of
Tom Maudsley with daughters. But then like the next following year, like Tom was running Hallowheart, and I had my Khorne Bloodthirster army, and literally there was like a series of events that could have occurred the round before, which would have meant that the Deepkin faced off against his Hallowheart, and that would have been a really bad matchup for him. He would have potentially lost. He should have lost that game, and then I would have been going into the last round playing a Sinesh army, which my army was designed to beat, and then I could have got the podium
you would
again.
have gobbled.
So it's sometimes in events, it is those little draws and scenario rolls in the matchup that you get that skews things. And anyway, we're digressing massively, but for me, it's like when you look at an event as a whole and you look at the distribution, you kind of, especially at a big event, you get a better picture of how balanced that faction is, because you should see people in the bottom with that faction. I think at that particular one, and my argument at the time, although it's very hard to argue the case for Def when known as a Def player, with a group of people that don't like them. So it was like they were saying that you're well, they don't like them, but they don't play them, and there's that element to it.
They're not their love.
I think it's hard as well when you look at an army externally to give it more credence of power than it actually deserves.
When you get beaten by it, you feel like it's extreme, and when you beat it, you don't remember it.
And I always, for me, like one of the things I've done as I've been playtesting is trying to play as many different things as possible, because I think it gives you a much better insight into an army's strengths.
Tom's done the same, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Tom's played about 50 different things.
Yeah, and the massive thing about that is you end up like understanding the nuances that make it, like if you play it well, it'll look very strong, but there are weaknesses that if you know how to break them down, it gives you the ability to win games. Now, getting back,
what are the weaknesses of these armies then?
Well,
I'm gonna segue that one. Don't worry, I got you.
You got me. I was literally just about to do similar. So Def as a faction, one of the main issues with it is you don't have shooting. Let's take OBR and put them in a box, because we know they've got catapults. But generally, range damage is an issue. So any faction that relies on easy to kill, quote unquote, buff heroes that you've got to take out to allow you to win the combats, if you don't have a way to get to them, then you haven't got any shooting. Your magic is okay, but it's not amazing, particularly if you're not playing like Nagash or Arcan to force those spells through, particularly in a magic heavy environment as we have now in the meta with Teclis and with Kairos and with all these really strong magic.
Magic can be about dispelling as well, right? It's not just about what you can cast, it's what you can stop.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that Nighthaunt have got, I mean, let's talk a little bit about their weaknesses again. So no shooting. Combat is okay. They kind of want to grind you. They want to grind. They're very weak to mortal wounds. Death side aside, but mortal wounds are a problem. They've got some great strengths. Like with the forefront of strike first and stuff that fights in the combat phase and all this kind of stuff, one of their best abilities, honestly, is when they fight in the charge phase, because it just bypasses so many things. Like for example, Lumineth picking 2 units, or
loaded debuffs.
Debuffs, start of the combat phase things, or fight at the start of the combat
charge
phase.
daughters. They get to fight twice or whatever, or something like that. You can do some cheeky stuff.
Yeah, but literally, it's purely for that. You fight in the charge phase, so anything that buffs you in the combat phase isn't in effect. So you see that with Sinesh, with things that don't necessarily work in the charge phase, they only work in the combat phase. And if there's some debuffs, like for example the pile-in locus at the end of the charge phase, I believe, so you get around that as well, because you can pick the order. So the allegiance ability of the charge mechanic is really strong. You've also got the ability to set up off the table and pop up, and that can be quite strong as well.
Just flexible period. We always talk about that, don't we?
Yeah, and that's something that they're really good at. They do have weak heroes, Scott. Yeah, that's a great point. They also, like, even their special characters are kind of very highly costed. I know Tinsdale's going to mention Alinda's wounds. They're highly costed, and they're impactful, but they are fragile. And I think the other thing I found with Nighthaunt, it was one of the first battle tomes. Again, Scott, great point about the Holy Within. So that was when, as a game decision, it was made for the designers to try and have this Holy Within rather than Within, to stop these like corn tails with blood letters and things like that, because they didn't like the aesthetic of that on the table. Like, look like little lines, and you could increase a range of an ability for like 30-40 inches by stringing out.
Yeah, with lollipops drawn over your table, don't you?
Yeah, you have like a little tail and then a blob, and the blob is doing the work, and the tail's just to be within range. And you could even do it that you take casualties from the tail, because at the end of the combat in Battleshock, you lose the one guy at the back, but they're still where they are, and you don't really care. All that sort of stuff. So, yeah. So
definitely. Is it worth popping the Nighthaunt book up on the screen, or anything in particular?
Well, before we get into that, I just wanted to give the exciting news that the Underworld's Warband is pre-order next weekend. So.
God, that's just four characters, isn't it?
And for those that are part of the Realm Hammer, or taking part in Realm Hammer, which is our painting competition that we're doing with Realm Rift, this will be one of the first paint along projects to gain those points, and we'll reveal that date and give you that time to do that. But that's
the Warband, or one of these people.
One of them out the box, I believe, would be but if you want to do the whole Warband, fill your boots. I thought it might be cool if we pick one, or if you want to do the whole warband, fill your boots. If you want to do one, that's fine. But anyway, as long as you paint along one of these models or the warband with us on that weekend, then that would be great. So we'll do it. But
let's know in the comments which one of those you would choose to do. I would definitely choose the simplest. So it's either of the two right-hand models. Can't make my mind up though.
I don't know. I think the guy with the wings is probably the easiest to paint. Like,
maybe he's got straps and stuff over things, and the other one I reckon you could just all over armor and block out the rest.
It depends if you've got an airbrush, I suppose. Yeah, I don't think any of them particularly faffy when you compare them to Luminef or other models.
Just do my typical thing: open them up, look at the sprue, and then make my decision on the amount of bits.
Well, at least they're push fit, so there's that with the Underworld stuff. So it's good. So let's we've talked a bit about the weaknesses of Nighthaunt and the strengths. I think they're probably coming a little bit more in vogue, I think, with the meta. I think they're getting a little bit stronger. I mean, there's not sugar.
If shooting goes up, they get better, right?
Yeah, anything with high rend, like suddenly their allegiance ability of ignoring rend becomes basically, well, no, it's not just ignore rend. I should clarify that. Ignore modifiers positive and negative. That is like massive, because obviously, like, if you're paying for rend 2 shots on your wind charges or your KO, and they're not anymore, then that's value that they're paying for, they're not getting. They've also got some unique tools in terms of anti-magic with Myamorn Banshees, which I think they came down in the handbook, I think, to 70 points for 4. So I think they're 210, which is what they were before with Massive Regiment, but I think that's gone. But they obviously get bonuses. I'm going to double check it because it has been a long time, but I'm pretty sure they get unbind bonuses. It might just be casting. I might actually be eating my words now.
They get like D3 damage instead of 1 damage if a spell's been cast within range or something crazy.
They're D3 damage, but there's ways to buff their attacks, I believe. So Yeah.
I remember being so scared of 4
it is literally unbinding, +1 to unbinding for every 4 models in the unit. If it unbinds an enemy spell, +1 attack if it's chill daggers. So chill daggers are rend 2 damage D3 anyway. So they're a really nice unit to have in your army as an anti-magic pop. So
also they attract attention, right? Because they are a scary concept. It's like big stabbers.
Yeah, and with the sort of the spirit realm rules, they can sit off the table and you can pop them up. So on the crucial turn, when they want to get that really impactful spell off, they're actually on the table to unbind it. Because normally your they're going to be unbinding it. They're going to be not in range on turn 1, basically. Obviously, if they got techless, tough. But I think one of the other things that Nighthaunt have is cheap bodies, and I think as people are moving to more elite quality attacks, just swamping someone with lots of bodies that are fast, that churk out loads of damage, is a really viable way of beating armies, particularly with Sinesh and
never leave home without 12
Luminef. So
yeah, I mean, for a second, I just want to talk about one of the things I think people do not do with armies in general, which Nighthaunt happens to do incredibly well, and that is attacking one unit with so many units that your opponent has to split the tax, and therefore will definitely not make their way through one of them. So, all of this is just math, and rather multiplication, which is obviously how to be strong. It's division, which is how to be resilient. So, if you charge, it doesn't matter how hard someone is. If you charge 4 units, it could be a zombie dragon, it could be half god berserkers, could be anything like that. Unless they are completely ridiculous and get absolutely average rolls, the chances of them wiping out everything that touched them is really slim. And when you put them together so that these two can only attack this one and this one can only get this one, and people end up splitting like that, you end up in a situation where sometimes you could go in with a Nighthaunt have got multiple options for this type of unit. Tens of infantry, or the guys that do the shooting attack that I've forgotten, but just 2 wounds each with a 4+ ignoring Ren save or ignoring modifier save. The chances of you getting lucky are pretty high, and the chances of you just negating stuff are also pretty high. So ganking a scary source with, whatever it is, 280 points worth of stuff in 3 different sections, often you'll do that and 2 units will survive, or all the units will survive. And then with Nighthaunt, sometimes you can put those models back, which frankly just feels insulting to your opponent.
Yeah, it's they are incredibly, I think they're underrated. I mean, let's not get too
techie.
Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. You are meta breaking if you're playing this army and doing well with it. Let's put it that way.
You're perceived as being on the back foot in terms of their power level,
which is also a strength, right? Because people underestimate them. So I think probably what we should do is get into a list build now. I'm going to talk.
Have you got a stipulation for this list? Are you trying to hit a specific requirement? Are you I want to be able to beat this type of army, or what is your objective when you're writing it?
I mean, for me, a massive thing with me, and I don't like hordes of models. So the first list I'm going to write is something I've talked about a lot before, and that is a Black Coach Spirit Host army.
And when you say you don't like hordes, is that you don't like more than one? Because that's how I tend to play my armies.
I just don't want to have 160 models on the table. For one, it's cool. Especially when you go to an event, time is a factor, and I think that you quickly run out of time.
Mental load as well, right? Just moving your bloody dudes around the table,
and especially if you've got a fair bit of timber leaning over a slightly short, not high enough gaming table, move in
a Cub Scout level table with
models.
A board on it.
Yeah, is
on your opponent's side of the table as well, because you get fucked up.
Because you're fast, so you're generally over the game line to use
I know that.
NFL. So you're over that line, and after about 4 games at 2 hours a game doing it, you kind of, my back's ready to give up. I mean, obviously, if there are fitter people out there than me that probably don't have an issue with it.
But it's just mentally, though. Move this guy, move this guy. And the moment they come off their trays, which is they should come off their trays as soon as you need to position them correctly, which is often turn 2, turn 1.5. You're every pile-in is exhausting.
Yeah, and I do love Spirit Hosts. That's right. But I think end of the day, they give you something the Nighthaunt army needs, which is impactful damage. Now, I used to run them in Legions of Nagash with the Vampire and Zombie Dragon, because you can get the command ability for reroll hits, which makes their output nuts. And even using things like Geminids, you don't care about being -1 to hit yourself, because you only care about
your 6s, which cause mortal wounds.
Yeah. So basically,
let's start then.
For me, if I'm going to say, right, I want a Black Coach, Now, the reason I want a black coach in a Spirit Host focused army is purely because it's
pretty.
Well, it is pretty, but that's not the reason. So the reason is that it has an ability which allows you to add D3 models back into a unit, I believe. So, I'm suddenly struggling to see it now. So you've got your evocation of death. Yeah, so pick one friendly summonable Nighthaunt unit whole within 12. Return D3 slain models. So,
and obviously you're getting more value there if you're summoning Spirit Hosts rather than chain rasps.
Because basically, Spirit Hosts, you're getting 3 wounds a model, right? So it's D3 models from Nimbus of Power.
Spirit Hosts have got a 4-up save rather than a 5-up as well, haven't they?
The whole army's got 4-up apart from Chain Rasps, which are 5. So basically it's just fantastic because I like the Black Coach anyway because of what it does later in the game. It gives you the ability to go out and get objectives far away with its retreating and charging, doing impact hits. It's very good at killing, like units of Judicators or small archers and stuff like that. It's how I used to use Arcan. Like, he sort of sits in a pocket, and then as the game gets into later stages and you're like, well, actually, the game's opening up, there's less on the table, and you're sweeping up small units, then it becomes a really impactful model. So for me, it's really good for that. I played with it on the 24-hour stream at Warhammer World when we did the release of AOS2. I was one of the group up there to do games and commentary overnight, and I used it there, and I was really impressed with its ability to just impact the whole table and be disruptive. And what I find with a lot of Nighthaunt stuff, you end up in grinding combat, which is another reason why Bladegeist Revenants are very strong because of their abilities. But Spirit Hosts are a battle line, and the Black Coach is, so you put a max unit of 12 in there. Now, I might adjust that, but it's 36 wounds. It's a very big unit. It's quite scary.
Why wouldn't you be doing 2 6s?
You might do, yeah. I mean, let's see.
Let's pop through and then we'll chat about it.
So I've just put 12 models worth of points in a blob, and let's see as we go through.
700 points down. This is some efficient expenditure so far.
Now, I think because you've got artifacts, and one of the things you really want to do is re-roll
anything,
hit rolls. So hit rolls in particular, and one of the things you can actually get in this army is an artifact which is Light Shard of the Harvest Moon, which is for Guardians of Souls only. But what this does is that you can reroll failed hit rolls for attacks made by Nighthaunt units wholly within 12, but use it at the start of the combat phase once per battle. So that allows you to almost use the Spirit Host like a shield around the Black Coach and your Guardian of Souls. The Guardian of Souls also is a model that gives you a buff as well, which I believe is reroll 1s to wound, which you don't really care about on that. Add 1 to wound rolls, there you go. But it is quite nice.
Hit rolls and save rolls is really good on them, but wound rolls is fairly rare within the game.
Yeah, but getting +1 to wound and re-rolling to hit is fairly good. The Spirit Host you only really care about the mortals. So obviously you need some heroes. So we'll stick the Guardian in because if we want that artifact, we're going to need it. There are other things. So I think if you want to take a battalion, I actually quite like the Death Riders battalion. And the reason I like this one is because it's 1 to 2 Dreadbane Harrows, and the Dreadbane Harrow is a very good general, which, because you get the ability to, where you've got he can basically at the start of the movement phase teleport round, and then he can use the command ability to pull a unit to him. And in Death Riders you get +1 to charge, and if you make an unmodified charge of a 9 rather than a 10, you get to use their Fight First ability. So it's a lot more likely.
Oh, I don't know what the math is on that, but it's going to be a very large difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unmodified 9, but it just means that if you're 9 away, you make a charge on an 8, and if you roll a 9, you get to fight straight away. So it's like if you use some of these units, and it also has a black coach, a Dreadblade Harrow, and 2 units of Hex Wraiths. Now Hex Wraiths are battle line as well, so like my kind of feeling is your battle line then is kind of in place. You know, you've got your 2 units of Hex Wraith. They could be minimum, you could make them bigger if you wanted to, and then your Dreadblade Harrow. So we've got the formation, we've got the big blob of Spirit Host, we've got the 2 units of Hex Wraiths, the black coach, 2 heroes, and that gives us at the moment we're up to 1310. Now obviously
something you consider with this army, Russ, just as a consideration. Drops, is it like did you aim for it if you could with it, or are you just like
I just think you're gonna end up with you're spending so many points on formations. There is an argument for taking like the Shroud Guard. So you know you can basically go, well actually what I'll do is I'll take the Shroud Guard, which is a Knight of Shrouds or Riken and 2 units of Blade Gas Revenants. So you could literally finish this off with like, okay, well I'll take a Knight of Shrouds because I want the +1 attack ability.
Take quite a lot of items then, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and then you say, then I'll want, which is really important if you want to be aggressive. And then you can go like, I'll take 2 units of Blade Guys Revenants and the Shroud Guard, and that gives you a very low drop army, and you've still got, and you'd probably up these up to, I don't know what, 15s if you could. And that's just over 2,000, so you'd have to knock one of those out. So maybe 2 10s, 1,900. So you've got 100 points left, and then you could come into here, and you'd probably want to take a they're more than a Spirit of Torment's really good, but that's over. But the problem is you're I think you're always trying to do too much with the army. Like for me,
you're trying to do something with the armies. It perhaps isn't the army's strength. Like you can get aggressive moments with Nighthaunt, but I wouldn't describe it as like a balls to the wall, corn, run at people and onslaught them, is it?
And like, so it depends. Like, you could go multiple formation, but I think at the moment, obviously, we don't know what's happening with the vampire stuff. One of the auto includes is a vampire lord as an ally.
I was going to ask that question.
Because basically he gives you a better command ability on Knight of Shrouds, which is
and it's not a bad option anyway, is he? Does he fly? You think is he like just a fairly solid 100 point-ish?
It's 140 points. He's got D3 damage, I think like 3 attacks. But the reason you take him is because he's got Invocation on his War Scroll. So basically he heals D3 3 units, D3 wounds. Just automatically. Then he's also got a command ability which lasts your next hero phase, which allows you to get +1 attack, whereas the Knight of Shrouds command ability is +1 attack, but it's in the combat phase and it's only for that phase. So as an ally, he's kind of like better than a Knight of Shrouds, and he's about the same cost. You know, so at the moment he well, depending on what happens, he's auto. If something happens to that, you can always change it to a Knight of Shrouds, and then maybe you think that it's worth doing that. Now I've put the Spirit of Torment in, and the reason I've put one of those in, I think these are one of the best models in the book, the best War Scrolls. I love them. It may be just I'm just biased, but
why do you love them? Tell us.
Well, I'm gonna try and remember why. What they do exactly. I've got the book, but I want to get the scroll up. But if it actually came up, but it's not.
The older the armies are, the harder it is to make the scrolls.
Harder it is to find them. Yeah. So basically, what he does is probably because they must sell them separately. It's probably because he comes in a weird box set. It's not called Spirit of Torment, which is why it's not showing up. I think it's in like a weird.
It's like a combo box or something else.
Yeah, I think he comes with 2 of them in a box or something. It's almost like they couldn't decide whether they were heroes or units. Same with the Dreadblade Harrows. I kind of wish they were. Yeah, Crawlock the Jailer. I forgot. It comes with 2.
Of course.
2 guys. Yeah. So I'm hoping the War Scroll's actually on the website. Yes, it is. Fantastic. It's probably out of date. No, they've only had 1 book. It's fine. I got that up now. So right, so basically, it's got the captured soul energy. So at the start of the battle shock phase, if 3 or more enemy models were slain, you can pick a Nighthaunt unit wholly within 6 and heal D3 wounds. If 3 or more Stormcast, you get 3 wounds instead of D3, or you can add models. So he's fairly good. Like, I quite like him. It says if you've got more than one, then you have to have 3 models per. But he's also got Nagash bidding, so reroll hit rolls are 1 for friendly Nighthaunt units where they're wholly within 12. So, and the good thing
that's
about
good,
because obviously that gives you a slight ghetto reroll on the Spirit Host. But one of the key things about his heal is that you can do it on characters. So it says in here that you can heal D3 wounds that have been allocated to it at Nighthaunt unit. It doesn't say summonable. So basically, it's one of the few things that actually heals characters in the book.
Or like healing your black coach up or something weird like that. If you're using it for a brick wall, which it's got a big base, it is not a bad brick wall.
No, and it does have some passive healing. But what I like about this heal as well, it's in the battle shock phase. So
cool.
It does require you to kill stuff, but it's kind of like if you're in combat killing and then like you've taken a couple wounds and you know you're going into their turn, just being able to pip those couple wounds back on just probably means it's harder to get rid of you.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's a good point, Carl. It does happen in both players' battle shots turns as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's fairly decent. I think he's just good economy. You just get good value out of a 120 point model, and he's a good spot for an artifact as well.
Yeah.
So I just think like the combo of him and the Guardian is just very solid. So it's fairly good.
And of course, if you want these guys in the right place, you've got the option to pop them up. So even if your Spirit Hosts are foot slogging it to someone, you could have them foot slog to a location where this guy's popped up, and it'd work out pretty nicely.
Yeah, and for me, it's why is that? Oh, Nighthaunt's in bold. That's why I'm blind to it. But yeah, so you can. I think like we talked about Mayamons, so I'd quite like a unit of Mayamons in the army.
What size? Because I guess these guys getting cut from 8 to 4 or whatever it is, or 8 to 6 is probably one of the more common things to happen when you start getting up there in terms of filling up your 2,000 points worth.
Yeah, I would go max 12. If I'm taking them, I take a bit of the max unit, or I don't take them. I think so.
Okay.
Purely because you want the bonuses. Yeah, James, that's also a good point that the Revenants get full rerolls to hit if they're in range of him rather than just ones. And as I think Blade Geist Revenants are the best impact armor unit you've got in your army. So to be honest, at the moment I'm at 1960 already, and that's with 10 Blade Geist, 12 Mayamorn, 2 units of Hexwraith, and 12 Spirit Hosts. Now, I don't think that army's big enough, so
bodies on the table here you were talking about.
So I would probably stick in a unit of Chain Rasps and go to 40. And then that's 2.
I was going to say, they basically come in 10s or 40s and nowhere in the middle, right?
Yeah. So this list at the moment, just to show people what's in it, is Guardian Souls, Nightmare Lantern, a Dreadblade Harrow, a Spirit of Torment, a Vampire Lord, 6 Spirit Hosts, 2 units of 5 Hexwraiths, 40 Chain Rasps, 10 Blade Guys, 12 Mayamorns, and a Black Coach in the Death Rider formation. It's 2,000 points bang on. It's, it's quite good. Your damage potential from the Spirit Host. The Spirit Host is quite a small unit, and maybe you want to drop something to increase that unit. You might even drop the Blade Geist Revenants down. You do get very tight on points. The Chain Rasp Horde really is just to have a big screen for your army.
That sorts out bodies almost instantly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of. You've doubled the amount in your army just by including it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
being funny in the chat.
It's just for part of the list that I just think you need bodies as well. Now, it's a little bit of an unusual army because it's difficult to see where the damage comes from because your combat units are quite small. So what some of the things that I think is difficult in this army is to try and get your longevity, but also your damage. Now, the problem with the Spirit Host unit being only 6 is quite easy to shot it in one round. And what you really want to do, you want to use the command trait. So let's just round this off. So let's make the Harrow the general.
Get them up to a 9 and find some points.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, but you take ruler of the Spirit Hosts. I mean, not only does it sound thematic, but it allows you to return D3 models as well. So basically, start of your hero phase, you can pick a friendly summonable Nighthaunt unit within 9 and return D3 slain models. So straight away, you don't have to put it on the Harrow. You could change the general. You might say, actually, I want to use the Harrow aggressively. So actually, I'm going to do it to the Spirit of Torment because I know he's going to be babysitting them. So he's going to take rule of the Spirit House. And also the Harrow is quite a high priority target because it kind of splits out the sort of the combat, like where they want to put their damage. Then you've got a formation, so you've got 2 artifacts. Now, I mentioned this Light Shard of the Harvest Moon. I think that's a pretty good artifact. So I'm going to stick that in.
Once a battle is fine for something that powerful, isn't it? There's very often you're going to use that, I don't know, turn 2, turn 3, perhaps even turn 1 if you get lucky, and it makes that threat of, you getting that charge roll pretty scary.
Yeah, and the next one is probably an auto-include, in my opinion, which is Pendant of the Fellwind. So it adds 3 to normal moves made by Nighthaunt units wholly within 12 of the bear at the start of a normal move. So it allows you to essentially like get 3 inches on your army, which is massive. So you've got those abilities already locked in. Then for the spell, there's lots of good options. I think it's a shame you don't have more magic in the army, to be honest. But I do like Shade Mist. Soul Cage is also quite good.
And to counter weaknesses when you pick this spell, you're trying to exaggerate strengths that are there, or double down on the units that you're relying on.
Anything that's going to synergize with the Spirit Host, if that's where I'm focusing my effort, because that's the unit that is going to be recycling. It's all about trying to make them as effective as possible. So I think maybe Shade Mist might be the best one. Soul Cage is an enemy unit within 12. It's quite short range. Spirit Drain, no. Life Stealer. Yeah, I'd go Shade Mist, I think. Someone could tell me I'm wrong. Yeah, I would love the Mortis Engine to be able to be in a Nighthaunt army. Don't get me started. So the kind of generic ability you get as well in Nighthaunt, which is really good, is the Spectral Summons, which allows you to start your movement phase. You can pick a Nighthaunt unit on the battlefield, remove it, and set up wholly within 12 of the general, more than 9 for enemy models. Now, the reason the Harrow is so good is because he's obviously a character, so he can use that ability, but he has an innate ability on his War Scroll, which allows him to do that at the start of the movement phase as well for himself. And because he's your sort of go-to in terms of like it's your turn, you can pick the order. So he has this phantasmal discorporation. So if it's more than 3 for enemy models, start your movement phase. Instead of making a move, set it up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 for enemy models. So that allows you to
drag someone with you, basically.
Yeah, teleport and then pull a unit with you, and that could be the Myamorns for their like impact charge and be in range of unbinding. It could be the Blade Geist Revenants. Could be the Spirit Hosts if you want to be out of the pocket, and the Black Coach is fast enough to fly over. So I think it's a really, really solid option.
Yep.
No, for me, it's like that movement is really solid. And it says, yeah, so no, it's on the battlefield. or within 12 of your general. So he has to be the general. I was just checking that. I thought it would have to be the general. So the Dreadblade Harrow would have to be the general.
Full enough ability for that to be fine,
for
right?
that to work. Yeah, I knew there was something around being the general, so I just wanted to double check it. So yeah, so it says that.
Yes. Check out command abilities on him then to see if there's anything that you can do to further double down.
I just think you take Rule of the Spirit Host. It's such a strong ability.
Sure.
Because that happens in your hero phase, so you can heal, then jump away in the movement phase.
Cool.
So you could add D3 models from the Black Coach and from him into the Spirit Host, then teleport him, then drag the unit of something with him, and then they could do the charge.
It's like a flexible projectile unit, isn't it? You get to do a load of stuff to it and then just launch it off into your opponent. Are you concerned with ways to make that potential charge more reliable, by the way? Is that a thing that is...
I mean, obviously you've got the rerolls and command points. There isn't a lot of ways to do it. You get the +1 on charging with the Death Riders. So if you want to pull the Hex Wraiths or the Black Coach, they get +1. I mean, they're not the best unit to pull with you, but if it's just about pinning someone in place, Hex Wraiths are not a bad shot.
Always just pop them up though, right? You don't have to pull them with you. You can just start them in the graves.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's not really a massive way of doing it, I don't think. I mean, there might be something, but I'm not sure there's many ways to get bonuses to charge in this book. I think it's kind of intentional because of their ability.
It'd be disgusting.
There might be a generic artifact from the realms that does something like reroll charge. I don't know. I don't think there is. I can't remember anything that powerful. It's one of those things. But I think like for a Nighthaunt army based around the Spirit Host block, cheers, Carl. And
thanks, Carl.
I think the chain rasps, like they kind of the unit I hate because I don't really want them in the army. I think I'd rather have like more of the other stuff. I think you can add it to taste. Like for me, if I was doing this army, I would probably lower them down to 20.
Who has retreat and charge?
The Bladegeist Revenants. Just generic.
I like that.
So
just think it's
that's probably what I would do. So I would reduce the chain rasps to 20, and that allows me to up the Spirit Host to 9. So that makes my Spirit Host unit bigger. I've still got a screen. Admittedly, it's a lot easier to get through it, but if they're there to die, I'm not too bothered.
I mean, you've already touched on it. They're the only thing in the book that don't have a 4+. Ignores Ren save. So if something can muller them, often they really are going to muller them. And even though they've got high bravery, once you kill 20 or something, it's still pretty risky whether they're going to be there after Battle Shock.
Yeah, and like for me, it's like I think that you're leaning into the Spirit Host. I need to put more points there. Again, it does feel like the points are tight in this army, and this is the problem I find. It's what I find with Nighthaunt, because you kind of want a minimum suite of characters.
Older books in general as well. Nighthaunt always had it, and now they're old, so I think you feel it even more.
Yeah, and I just think it's a little bit overcosted, some of the units. I mean, you took like 5 Hex Race compared to like 5 Wind Chargers, or they're basically the same points. It's like
Doomfire Warlocks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously compare it to Daughters or Lumineth, you're probably going to look like you're being.
We've just done the thing that we told people to not do.
Yeah, don't do that. But we love doing it, right?
Yeah. So, okay, then. So you're looking at that. What are its strengths, and are there any weaknesses that you need to be plugging in right now? Like, what couldn't it deal with, and what does it really easily deal with?
I don't think it easily deals with anything. Like, honestly, I think it's going to struggle in some matches just purely because you're playing Nighthaunt. Sorry, I'm just being real, right? So
that's fine.
I think people will underestimate it. It will look like a very soft army because they'll look at it and go, "Oh, you've got a coach. Oh, you've got Spirit Host. You've got Hex Race. I don't see any of these models." I actually think the damage, the Bladegeist Revenants are the unit that are like your assassins. They're the unit that's going to allow you to retreat out over the top or around the side and get into those heroes. You've got the Harrow being able to pull Hex Race for a reliable 8-inch charge. Is that reliable? I don't know. You've got
it's not unreliable.
No, you've got a screen, bodies. You don't necessarily need to use the screen. You could put stuff off the table if you want to use it later on.
That's a huge strength. Or if you want to make people behave weirdly, you could just start off by saying my Myrmons are off the table.
I would probably always start those off the table.
Yeah.
Because they're never in range to unbind in the first turn.
I think
because they've
5
only got an
hex
18
raised
inch.
your Myrmons, and then a damagey or scary utility piece of choice, and that's enough to give you quite a few options. They can pop the hex rates up. They've got an 8-inch charge that might be enough to pin something important, and they're resilient-ish and not too awful for damage. Each game doing that is just going to give people some stuff to consider, which really screws with their heads.
And you've got the follow up with the mime ones that you pop them up in a pocket of something that you've screened with, whether that's hex wraiths or it's the 20, or it's just the 20 chain rasps. They're up, they're in range to unbind. They get the unbind, they're at +1 attack each. Now you'll go. The Vampire Lord's flown up. He's given them +1 attack as well. They're +2 attacks, Ren 2 damage D3. They go in. They just go and hack some stuff up with their attacks. Definitely an underrated unit. I definitely think they're solid. The spirit hosts are great because basically they just do mortal wounds, so they don't give a flying F about minuses to hit. And so much stuff's like, oh, you're -4 to hit. I mean, look at the Luminef review, and we said we could be -4 to hit, and you go, they don't care. We don't care. I think
we don't care, and you can get 2 rend. We also don't care about that.
Don't care about that either.
Hello, we're coming back.
and we're getting 2 D3 models back a turn. If they can't get the heroes out, that is solid. Particularly if you're kind of bunkering up. You've got quite a lot of stuff you want to get rid of. This is why I don't really like Alinda, because she's such an easy target and she's such an obvious target. In here, you'll be like,
she's very extreme one way or the other. If people can't deal with her, she feels bent, and if they can deal with her, you feel like you overpaid.
She's great, but she's also terrible.
So, yeah. It's the difficulty with having rules that are that extreme, and the entire book suffers from this. If you face someone who puts out consistent average mortal wounds, you're going to feel really butthurt. And if you play against someone who relies on Ren 2 combat or shooting, they're going to feel very butthurt. It's kind of it's a divisive army, isn't it? In terms of it makes a lot of matchups feel a bit weird one way or the other.
Yeah, and like it's. I think this is, you're gonna have to play a lot with this, and I think you're gonna have a lot of games that will be quite frustrating.
Reward you've practiced though, definitely.
Yeah, it will. Scott, I have played Legion of Grief. I took it to a heat actually, and I think I had 2 units of 20 Bladegeist Revenants in the Shroud Guard. It's good because you get the problem is you lose a lot of the Nighthaunt benefits, and because we sort of said the Nighthaunt show, I've been cheeky, it's not actually the Nighthaunt allegiance, but because it's in Forbidden Power, it's one of those allegiances that I don't know, it's very lacking because I don't think you get any artifacts, and with the artifacts from Malign Sorcery going away,
no ethereal zombie dragon straight up changed the world for that, right?
Yeah, but it's not even that. It was the Aether Quartz brooch being able to spam command abilities with with them, and like that was massive. So Legion of Grief, I kind of just don't think you go near it. I think it's
also feels a bit weird, right? That army, I'm sure there's about to be a book released. I wouldn't be surprised if some stuff changes, or there's a new edition of the game coming at some point soon. It feels a bit old-fashioned and confusing. Like try explaining to someone why they're allowed to take that army. This is my thing that I generally consider when trying to work that stuff out. And if it doesn't fit fluff-wise, those type of things, some of them are dropping off. Don't know if it will, but we'll find out.
I think it's one of those things. It's like it just feels like a White Dwarf army that's a bit of an afterthought.
A perfect explanation. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't want to invest in something that I'm not sure on its longevity until it's in a battle tome, like a proper battle tome. I don't really like.
If you collect both those armies, fine. But if you're just going down that route,
it's a bit like the Host of Celeste, right? So although they've FAQ'd it, so they've changed the rule for it, so it's still illegal. It's not in the Head Knights book, so you kind of think, well, why isn't it in the Head Knights book? And it's like, is that because it only takes a General's Handbook update where they don't include it in the points and you can't use it? So you're like, well, how much do I want to gamble on it? You know, I mean, it's like
or the opposite way, and suddenly your army's still in there from 4 years ago, and you're playing with Warrior Brotherhood and getting old school or something.
Yeah, for some reason, it's like the one battalion that they've just continued to keep in the game that's not in the book.
You can use this. How do you find out its rules?
Did you happen to have an out of print Grand Alliance order book or whatever it was in? Gates of Azir.
I am your man.
Yeah, you've got
it. Yeah. Okay, so that army looks pretty solid. I like the amount of options it's got. I like that you got the Vampire Lord in there. I just think he's awesome.
Yeah.
Would probably do.
Should we do another
How
one?
worried?
Go to Flesh Eaters, or
I think I jump to Feck, but I have a question before we do. How worried are you playing that army, and how do you deal with needs a wizard or needs a hero scenarios? Are you popping the character up? Like, is it just layers of bubble wrap, ethereal bubble wrap?
Basically, yeah. I mean,
okay, yeah.
I mean, the Vampire Lord's a wizard. The Guardian of Souls is a wizard. Your Spirit of Torment's got an artifact. So you could even put so they're very fragile. Hero missions have been the bane of Nighthaunt pretty much since they came out. You don't have access to a resilient hero. You don't have like a guy on a zombie dragon or anything like that. You can't.
You don't have Be'lakor or something to cheat with either.
If only. No. Unfortunately, Kurdos Valentin is like the poor man's Be'lakor, isn't it? It's like not even
he's a very poor man's Be'lakor. Yeah.
Shame because the model is baller as hell, but
he is.
I think for the future, I'd really like Alinda to be turned up to like 11. Like, she's a Mortarch, right? I'd like her to feel like on a par with like Manfred or Arcan or
2/3 of Marathi. 2/3 of Marathi. Like a big, scary, ghosty, I'd love to see what model they do with that, but rules-wise, you can make it work as well. And I think if you made her a bit bigger, you could justify her being a bit more resilient with the same power output of damage.
Yeah.
And then the model would just make a lot more sense because she's, she folds like paper and she's a complete glass cannon, basically, isn't she?
Yeah, and she's just like, I think the black coach, I wish there was a character variant. So like, I know in the kit you've got like one's got like a bell and one's got like a chainy thing. There's two. Yeah, but it always was a hero type thing because it had a dead vampire in the back, and it's just a bit weird. It's like it's got a Karen Wraith sat on the front, and the Karen Wraith's a hero. So you're like,
it's exactly as stupid as the vampire thing, which is from the Mortis Engine one, where it's got the literal attack profile of a Vampire Lord, and it's not a Vampire Lord.
Yeah,
it's got like 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 1, damage D3, and the same name on the sword, and it's not the same dude.
Yeah, I just we can wish list for the next update at some point, because obviously they come out on release of AOS2. All right, just let me see my piece, bitch. No. So
I thought you're preempting that. Sorry.
No.
I'm prepared for this one, guys. I'm going to remove my plastic wrap from my Flesh Eater course.
So prepared. I love it. So that'll be. We'll move on from Nighthaunt. If there's anything you want to know more about Nighthaunt, pop it in the chat. Remember to circle back to it.
You paint them with dry brushes. This is important.
Yeah, you get your old Series Ds out, right?
Russ, you should probably touch on your painting tip that makes things look badass very fast. Is it a grey paint over the top or something?
Yeah, so the way I did mine, let me just grab one. Hang on.
I can open up my fact book. Guys, everyone, while Russ is away, should ask for us to write Slanesh. So, hi, Russ.
You want to talk about Slanesh? I can still hear you. Like,
I know.
This is this might actually not come out on the camera very well because I don't think the lighting's very good. I need to do it here. So this is my focus, my spirit host. So I've got like 24 of these. So they're essentially, it's basically black primed, dusted with, I'll use grey sear now. I used, I think I did a Mechanicus and then I dusted them with white. And then what I've done is I've basically done a 2-stage wash. So one is Corellia green shade and the other one is Nylax Oxide. So it's Nylax Oxide first.
All over?
Yeah, all over, thinned. Then Corellia green shade, thinned. I've got big pots of it like this that I mixed up, which 50. It's basically one pot of Corellia, one pot of medium, one pot of Nylax,
Awesome.
one pot of medium. It's 1-to-1. And then once that's dry, so you do the Nylax, wait for it to dry, do the Corellia green shade. Then all I did is I got Celestia grey, which has been airbrushed over it carefully. That's been thinned, and then all I've done then is airbrushed Ulfron grey, and I've done no highlighting, no brush work.
The grey really helps though,
Nothing.
right? For unknown reasons, it does some magic stuff.
No, I mean, if you wanted to edge highlight it in grey, you could in the Ulfron, or even Pallid Witch at the very end if you really wanted to pop it a bit more. But actually, like, they look fine, and then you can paint the weapons if you want to. But I haven't. I was going to go back and upscale it, but I haven't bothered. So my whole Nighthaunt army was done like that. It was very quick. Super
How do you
dirty.
suggest running Hexwraith without having to use the Hexwraith kit?
Buy loads
Getting
of
any
dread
models and painting them like ghosts.
buy loads of
Are they
dread
on something
blade
with 4 legs?
harrows and convert the weapons with scythes. I don't know. But it would cost you a fortune. The
Any
Hexwraith
cavalry
kit I
and
don't
just-
think's too bad. I think it's fine. Why is Alinda the best Nighthaunt unit? She's not. So
Easily answered.
yeah, okay, Andrew. I'll I can always do like a little video of them and show you how I did it and put some pictures up. So I could try and sort that.
I've got some Hexwraiths for some reason.
I've got 20 because I ran them in Old Hammer when I was doing like shenanigans with free reforms with fast cavalry, but that won't mean anything to a lot of people watching this.
I think I've got. Yeah, I might even have 10 prepped or something weird in red.
Yeah,
Of
I've
course.
got a black coach still in its box. Does that count? Sorry. I so want it to be good. I keep
On the
meaning
subject of things that are good,
were good. No, sorry,
were good.
they got double nerfed again, didn't they? So
Feck.
night, all the deaf players feel my pain. So
Just broken hearts. Come on, emo boys. Let's talk about some people that.
why does everyone hate us?
Let's talk about some stuff that was good and still can be good if you're willing to use your brain.
Okay, so should we talk a little bit about strengths and weaknesses? Should we do that first?
Okay, they do not like being shot at to any degree whatsoever, and you need to deal with that or accept the imminent pain of what's going to happen when you face a shooting army.
They are.
Is
That is
that number one?
That
on the
is
list?
one. I would say their biggest one is yeah, I could do that, Andrew. The biggest one for me is they are command point thirsty as fuck. So they are like they literally guzzle command points like it's going out of fashion. So it immediately restricts with the Aether Quartz brooch going away. And with some of the other artifacts going away, and with the points changes, and with the changes to Gristlegore, they got absolutely hammered, and not in a good way. They obviously rely on ambushing quite heavily. Yeah, Matt.
Or just turboing across the table in one great big like extra move rush, right?
Yeah, and they're very fast. But they tend to get like the impactful turn is like when you've got command points, then as soon as you run out of command points, the army loses about 50% effectiveness.
Yeah,
particularly
I think we build these and greenskins in exactly the same way. To if you're going to build the like and a version of the optimal list.
Yeah, exactly. Warhammer Rob, when you could buy command points and have like 5 bought up. So yeah,
1750. I ran 1650, mate.
all command point. Yeah, so basically you've lost so many ways to get command points. It's hurt them a lot. I think that's one of their biggest weaknesses, honestly. They rely on summoning, but it's a very weird summoning where you need command points, which is your scarcest resource. And they have lots of overpriced crap core units. just to be
It
blunt.
sounds like there's nothing good about this army. Now to touch on that,
there is some good
their
stuff.
summoning is fairly flexible. You've got a variety of units. They can ambush. That's pretty awesome. And excuse me, and even after what we've said about them being command point heavy, I made a reference to the Greenskins book. What you can get, and a very solid way to build a FAC army, in my opinion, is screw anything that costs extra points, including battalions. There's a couple that are good. Russ will probably have an opposite opinion to this, but screw anything that is extra points. Try and get a maximum amount of stuff on the table, and then anything that you're going to be using most turns of the game, if you can get it for free, get it for free. That's my compact version of one of the types of lists you can write, at least.
Yeah, they're fast. That's one of their good things. They've got the movement shenanigans. They've got really good spells. They've got really good
their spell deck
monstrous
is
characters.
Incredible. Yeah.
So obviously, most FEC armies were Gristlegore. We're not going to be doing Gristlegore lists because it's
Stop it.
I took Blister Skin, Grand Court.
So we have a lot of the Flayers and the Knights and stuff, right?
Yeah,
basically?
so
Knight is like troll sized.
Yeah, so the horrors or the Flayers, but basically Flayers because Crypt Flayers become battle line. So I took this to an event, did very well with it. Is when Skaven were very prominent. That was old, a long time ago. That was like when the book was out. Is when everyone was running Gristlegore before the nerfs. I don't know if it's still relevant. It might be worth just popping it into a list and just seeing how it looks now with the points changes. Just out of curiosity.
Anything that extreme and different is gonna, you will inherently benefit from all the stuff that we talk about taking non-meta armies, right? If you know that army well, your opponent is gonna barely understand it.
Yeah, exactly. And like I'm just gonna plonk in what I believe was the army.
Go for it.
And then it's fairly Abhorrent Archregent needs to go in. And I'm pretty sure it's Dead Watch. Yeah, that was the battalion. And it's already 1910 already.
Welcome to Flesh Eaters.
You don't get a lot. I think it was something.
That small amount can cover the board pretty well, though, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'd probably buy a command point, to be honest. It's worth it. Chalice of Azorin and a command point is probably where I'd go.
You can build. This is the list where you can build an anti-shooting version as well, isn't it? Is that the one that who ran it?
Anti-shooting is a yeah, you could call it. It comes with basically with
a couple of artifacts.
Yeah,
and
you
stuff
get
like
the artifact gives you a command point on a 4-up, and it also gives you, I believe, it is the so you get Hellish Orator. So the general at the start of the hero phase on a 4+ receive a command point. So you get that, and then the other thing is the Eye of Hish. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by missile weapons that target a Blister Skin unit hollow within 6 of the bearer. So it's quite good, just as a like
blob.
Yeah, it's an extra -1. Like whether or not you could put it on. I put a Vargulf in there for healing, basically, because it's all about these guys. And then the trait would be Hellish Orator. Then obviously the mount trait would straight away be Gruesome Bite, because that's what you take. It's okay. The 2 artifact, because you've got Eye of Hish, you get 1 more artifact, which could be something. So I don't really sure what I was taking. Maybe the Dermal Road's quite good for the casting. I'm sure there was something that's fairly obvious. Blood River Chalice is a good option. Courtier, no, don't like that one. You can reroll Charger, also Flesh Eater, Court's Holy Within 12. It's pretty good. Flayed Pendant.
If it's someone who can get to the right place, I guess.
Well, the good thing about this army is anything that flies, you can basically spend a command point, and you could use the Lord of Burning Skies. So start the movement phase, pick a Blister Skin unit that can fly, hold within 12 of a hero or within 18 of the general, remove it, set up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 from enemy units. So you can basically like teleport them and go right there next to you. And with the ability to get your...
And they still get to move then, right?
No, it says they can't move.
No.
So it's,
Okay.
it just means you're in a 9-inch charge, so getting a reroll charge is fairly good. I mean, rerolling charges, again, you're command point heavy. I think I would probably... You could take something defensive on your Terrorgeist. You could go for casting. Casting on the Archregent, Dermal Road's really good. So, like, you could go to our Dermal Road because I really want to get the spells off. There's lots of options. You can do the reroll charges maybe on the Vargulf, maybe on the, and then you could take the Blood River Chalice for the wounds on the healing if you want that super heal. It really depends. Like your Terrorgeist, the thing is your Terrorgeist pretty much is going to be casting Unholy Vitality. So his spell is kind of situational. I've got the Chalice.
It's Unholy Vitality, a 5-up after save.
Yeah. So on himself generally. You could take cogs, so you could literally like not take the command point, not take the chalice, and take cogs, which allows you to then re-roll time to get an extra cast on your hero, but also give him a reroll before a armor save. So that's very solid. That's I think I used to take cogs actually, but the chalice and the command point again. There's lots of little stuff you can do around the edges, but essentially.
I love this like this. You could change 80 points worth of stuff and completely change the list. Defensive, offensive items, not what you summon, what you don't, etc.
Yeah, and like the Vargulf, I put a Vargulf in for the healing. I really like Vargulfs. I rate them. I rate them a lot. They're fast. Anything in the Blister Skin army gets +2 movement, I believe, as well. Yeah, +2 move. So he's movement 12 in a Blister Skin.
Can you summon a Vargulf though?
You can from the Archregent, but the problem with the summoning off the Archregent, so with the Terrorgeist you can get Knights. The Archregent you can get either 20 ghouls, a Vargulf, and 3 Knights. So you normally do a Vargulf, but you kind of want the healing from 2 Vargulfs.
You start with one for safety and then you summon another to double down on it, basically.
Yeah, because the healing, because they've got the...
they're not bad either. They shred through crap, don't they?
They're good combat. They're good in combat, yeah. I mean, 4 attacks,
they get bonuses against larger units or something like that.
If they're a friendly abhorrent model with an 18 cast a spell, they can reroll hit rolls, and then they get +2 attacks with their claws if it's within 3 of 10 or more enemy models when you pick unit to fight.
They munch crap really efficiently.
They go through units really, really good. The zombie, the ZG. I don't know what the ZG is. I think that might be
Zombie Dragon.
But we haven't got. I think it is the Zombie Dragon, but I don't have one, so I've got a Terrorgeist. So you could swap it, but I just think the Terrorgeist is so much better for the gruesome bite.
Why? Just in case people aren't aware, what is it that makes that model so scary, and why is it in pretty much every list?
Well, one, you've got a 10-inch shooting attack that does mortals, so you roll a dice and you add the number, and everything above the thing does wounds. But it's the gaping maw. So if you roll a 6 to hit, it does
to hit, guys. Normally that's a wound roll. Just to point out how significant that is.
It does 6 mortals. And what you can do is can give it gruesome bite, which allows you to re-roll the bite attacks.
And there is a way to increase your amount of attacks with a spell?
Yes, the Archregent has a +D3 attack spell. Now, the other thing I did in my list, I didn't take the Archregent. What I took was another Abhorrent Ghoul King on foot. I won't do it now because he's gone up in points so much. But what he did is he gives you more summoning. With the Carnal Throne, he does it for free as well. But he actually has a spell that gives you +1 attack. So you can put both spells on the same model. So you could get +4 attacks potentially. It's actually quite good on the Infernal Courtiers anyway. And I'm just trying to work out and there's so many good spells. Like I think, let me double check. That I'll just double check that, but I think the oh, thanks for the coffee there on the call. I wondered what that was. I forgot I even put that on. I heard a noise. I was like, what is that? That's what threw me. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Very much, dudes.
So basically from the spells, if I get back on my train of thought, I believe they're very good. So basically, you've got Spectral Host. So unit can fly, but if you can already fly, it can run and charge. And if it's a 10 or more, 3 units can. So anything bonuses to cast are really good, because if you get that off and you go, well, I'm going to have 2 units of flayers and the guy running and charging and they're +2 to movement, they're really fast. And what it allows you to do,
just to be clear, guys, that this it doesn't say the unmodified.
No.
This is why we're saying this. So if you can get +2 to your cast and you roll an 8, that counts as a 10 for this.
You've got the Monstrous Vigor, which is a good candidate for your Terrorgeist, because it basically means you'll go in, okay, I can get my I can count as having no wounds taken. I think Spectral Host is probably on the Archregent because he gets 2 spells. And obviously you've got the Dermal Road for the bonuses. Deranged Transformation is also pretty good. So you add the model's wound characteristic to their move. So that gives you +4 move on your flayers, and also you can, if you roll a 10 or more, it's 3 units. So that's a really good spell as well.
So these spells, guys, if people are not familiar with this, I describe them as having a very high ceiling. So when these go well, they properly go well. They're fine. You know, that it's not like they're under average if you don't get that 10+. One thing is fine. But in terms of a scary turn 1 potential, this army can go, you know, you just have to have 2 8s to cast on someone who's got +2 to cast, and this army can go nuts. So the entire army is overclocked instead of 1 unit.
Yeah. And yeah, you could, like you say, I think Lee's saying that you normally would go for the Deranged Transformation over the
cast on a 6. That makes it a lot more reliable. That's the type of thing I'd consider.
Yeah, but I mean, you could have the best of both, really, because you can have it on the other guy. So,
God, everything here is cheap apart from the final spell. Everything's a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, they're really reliable. But,
awesome.
So like these 2 spells, like you know, if you got these 2 spells with the bonuses to cast, and if you took cogs as well, if you wanted to go super aggro, you could drop both of these out and go for chronomatic cogs, which I think are 80 now, right?
They are 80, yeah.
Plus you got a chance at a triumph then at 1980. So
like, this is an army for a triumph, right? What if you yeah.
The only issue with the normal Boront Ghoul King, he only gives you the option to give you normal ghouls, like for to summon. So it's like he's very costed. He's pretty much overcosted for what he is now. But his Black Hunger,
they are one of the worst battle line units in the game as well, just to point out.
Dreadful.
So, sorry if anyone's in love with them for any reason. I've got some, but they are, you know, they feel 30 points too expensive for what you actually get out of them. They feel bad.
Yeah, you could go for a corpse cart, but I'm trying to stick away from anything that's sort of could be in the new book for Gravelords, because it might change, so it might not do what you think it does now. So it's like, I don't really.
Or it might only buff Gravelords or something like that.
Well, exactly.
Like,
so
cool. That's a nice model.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what, you know. Obviously, I have a bit more information, but I kind of don't want to like talk about stuff that's imminently changing. So I just thought, but Corpse Cart was a go-to. So but
make sure this is relevant for the futures. We can do a Redux, absolutely. I mean, when that 100% stuff comes out,
I mean,
there's going to be
we're going to do a full balls deep review of any potential new book that's coming
balls
out.
Deep in Undead Flesh.
Yeah, which I know they've announced it basically, but you've seen that there's the Soulblight Gravelord stuff coming. So when we do that, we'll talk about them as allies as well during that show. Obviously, unless you're an OBR player, then you can get fucked. No, I'm kidding. But obviously, like Chronomatic Cogs gives you the extra cast on your Terrorgeist, which would allow you, if you really wanted to drop Vigor, go for something else. I really like Chalice of Azurin. I think it's such a good way of healing your army.
Is that a big pile of undead horses?
No, it's the cup. So it's on a 6. It's set with 24, and then when you keep track of the number of models slain within 12, at the end of each turn, roll a dice for each model that was slain. On a 4-up, heal a wound allocated to a Flesh Eater Corpse model within 12, or return 1 slain model with a wounds characteristic of 1. So it's good for regenerating ghouls, but basically it's a good way to heal your army. Particularly your Terrorgeist.
Less powerful in this army though, right? Because you have less.
but you could potentially put 20 ghouls on from the Archer region and from the Ghoul King. Now, I personally prefer the Varghulf, just because I want the healing, and I know you can summon a Varghulf, but sometimes I found you just want 20 bodies, and like, so you want to use these to put 20 ghouls down.
Janus.
Sorry, yeah, I'm only kidding. I play OBR too, but I just mean they don't get allies, so they're not going to get any benefit. So I quite like Blister Skin because it's aggro AF, and what the good thing about being fast, is that you can basically put deranged transformation on the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, and then if you get your cogs off, rewind time, get your second cast, use deranged transformation or his spell. You've got the Spectral Host. You probably put it the other way around actually. So there, and then
I'm just gonna look at the restrictions of cogs and see if you can cast it in front of yourself and still be within range to get reroll saves. 12. Oh, you can.
Yeah, but you get it when you use it, so it's not. You don't have to be next to it when you've done it. It's only when you've used it. But you can put it 12 inches. I think it's 12 inches in front. So basically, you put it. You've got to be within 3 of it.
Within 9
of it. Yeah. So you could put it. So you're just within 9, and you could go the opposite side of it.
Yeah.
So then, like, you do get quite a bit of range on it. I actually used to run cogs in my list. That's what I ran.
It's a really, really fantastic way to protect wizards and large monster wizards at that. That's why we were kind of over the top on the Behemoth option of taking it, because it makes such a big difference to those dudes.
Yeah, and like you can even cast it from the Archer region, and then you could then the Terrorgeist can actually use it to slow down time.
Yeah, so, it's just a model manipulates it. It's not the caster, so you can cast it with someone more reliable if it's a key part of your game plan.
Yeah.
And, making that guy twice as survivable may well be a key part of your game plan.
And I personally like in Blister Skin, and the formation, we probably should mention what that does because we haven't spoke about it. So basically, the Dead Watch in your hero phase, one unit in the battalion that's within 3 of an enemy unit can make pile in an attack with all its melee weapons. Pretty solid. You've got the healing from the Crypt Infernal Courtier as well, so you could drop the Varghulf because it's a bit overkill. But like I say, it's to taste. A Varghulf is the same points as the normal Ghoul King on foot. I think the Varghulf's better.
It's a nice lone ranger. You lose spells, pick one.
Yeah, if you could get another Archer region, I would, but I don't know where you find the points for it. Like it's but it's kind of something like that, and like you can change cogs out. Probably would keep cogs over, because what the speed allows you to do is be outside of a threat range of missile weapons and almost if you get your buff off, explode into combat. So you're not risking yourself, and even the fact you could be quite far away, and you could just use the command ability to pick yourself up and drop your guy down. And if you,
it also gives you some redundancy, right? If you fail one movement shenanigan spell, you may get another one. So if you fail to give yourself +4 to move,
you might get run a charge off.
Yeah. And Cogs gives you +2 to your move and +2 to your charge, so you get the same thing.
And Blister Skin gives you +2 to your move. So like potentially you're in a perfect storm. Your Terrorgeist, I love doing this because you just go, it'd be an 80-inch move. No, so he'd obviously, his movement 14, gets +2, 16. Then you'd go for your cogs is then 18. If you're running and charging, it's fairly good. Like, it's solid, right? I mean, it's good. I don't think the deranged transformation affects him because he's a monster, but I might be wrong.
Units of this. I'll check it for you.
Yeah, cool. It's always a thing when you flick through a book after a while, you forget where the stuff lives because you're like, you don't get as used to it.
Deranged transformation, one friendly with wounds characteristic of up to 6.
Yeah, so
I knew there was a restriction.
Yeah, so that's why you'd have Spectral Host on him, I think, and then Deranged Transformation on the Archer Regent. Because even like the Archer Regent, like once he's popped his command ability, he's actually he's not crap in combat.
Is he the one who's surprisingly self-healy? Is he the irritating one?
They're all, to be honest, they all self-heal. He gets D3. I believe he gets 3 models back a turn. Yeah, he gets 3, where another one gets D3. So he gets 3 wounds back a turn. But
it's flat 3.
His movement 6, and then like you go.
He's also 7 wounds and some other.
Yeah, I mean his attack profile's a bit too, but it's like he's just about getting into position.
I've been caught out by that model multiple times in multiple games with him just surviving. It kind of feels a little bit like fighting against the dude in OBR where he's negating wounds, because if you don't get him in one pot in one phase, there's a decent chance that he just comes back to life, which is really annoying.
It's almost like Lee Bromley's like peered into my brain because it's where I'm going next. So so this is like what I ran, and the flayers are really good because in Dead Watch you get to fight in the hero phase with the units, you get the screams, it's really good. But you got the speed, it's fun. It's not a lot of models to paint, which again is something I look for.
You don't have to use ghouls.
No, and you could summon 20 if you want, but that's up to you. But I like it. There's some good options around there. It still fits in, which is, I think, is basically what I had, like give or take. I think I might have had a little bit more stuff in it, but because I think the Archregent went up.
Cheaper, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think the normal King went up as well, and he might come down. Actually, I think he's 260 at one point, which was madness. But I think the Flayers came down. But I still think they should be about 150 points, not 170. But that's you know. And there's a lot of mortal wound output in this as well, which isn't to be forgotten. And
quite a lot of Rem 1 attacks as well, right? You know, never mind the mortal wounds. You just, if you come against someone who's got a 4-up or 5-up armor save, like especially 5-up, you're gonna muller them.
Yeah, and you could even run 1 9 and 2 3s if you really want to, because of the healing. If you want to go, I like the 6s because it's a bit more flexible.
Multiple 6s is great.
I think the other thing about it is the screams are really good. Like, it's really underrated. It's, you know, against anything low bravery, it really does a number on people. And you've got a few ways to do mortals. You could argue that maybe you take the Grim Garland artifact, gives you -2 bravery if you're within a certain range of the character. And then you could, I think there's
some endless spells and some stuff like that as well that you could feed in that direction if you wish to.
Yeah, I think
you probably end up diluting things a little bit.
I think I took that. I took the Grim Garland for superpower fun, which is subtract 2 for bravery enemy units while they're in 6. So you could fly the Terrorgeist over, use the Terrorgeist scream and the scream from the Infernals, and it's quite nasty when they're -2 bravery.
Yeah, it's a big poke on a unit.
I played a Skaven player, and it was so it was pretty good.
It's unmodified, Matt says.
What is?
I don't know. I'm just repeating.
So, is it because you were talking about the skewering talons? Because that's target's bravery characteristic. So yeah, but if you're minus bravery, then your characteristic's modified, I guess. I don't know. I don't know, Matt. You'd have to explain what you're talking about if you're talking about the bravery thing, but I'm pretty sure it works. Otherwise, it would be fairly pointless. But anyway, there's lots of artifact choices. I think it's good. Yeah, it doesn't say a modified bravery characteristic though, so I'm not sure their bravery characteristic would be modified down. I don't know if there's been something, but you know that I don't about an FAQ. I'm not sure, but yeah. But anyway, it's pretty good. Yes, I did play Richie with it actually, Jonas. That's a very good point. I forgot about being on the stream with that. Yeah, I think it was that list I played with. Yeah, it would have been. Yeah. It's only played it once, I think, but it was similar. But yeah, it's but probably you might be right, Matt. I don't know. I didn't think that was how it was, but it might have been FAQ'd since I played with it. I can't remember.
I could see understanding that either way, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a bit grey, isn't
value, it? But why would you otherwise say that unmodified in some other things? But it could be an inconsistency, or it could be a thing.
I've always thought it affected it, but I might be wrong. I'll have to look into that. So answers below in the comments if you find the reference in the FAQ. So yeah, cheers. I think I made a slight mistake in that game, which could have wrapped it up for me a lot earlier. I think I might have played him with McCorn, actually. I can't remember. I played Richie a few times on the stream. I think I played him with Legion of Grief as well on the stream, but I can't remember.
I think that might be one where you got a really unlucky like something happened to him where like units got exactly wiped out by one, and if they didn't, it was going to be a big. Oh, I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
It was. I could watch it back on if the stream. I guess we could find it. If you've
What's
got
happening next then?
Well, I think we should probably talk about Hollowmorn because of obviously there's a little bit of love of them in the new Techless book, and obviously like they're a bit of a sleeper. Particularly the Royal Mordant formation is super good. Now I played, and I'm going to forget the guy's name, so I do apologise. There's a couple of chaps that I met. One of them's like sort of semi-local to where I am, and they're both friends. So I played both of them in the same event, and I lost to the Flesh Eater player using, I think he was Blister Skin Royal Mordants, because it's just so fast, and on objective play it's so good. So basically, and he played a blinder, to be fair. I do apologise that I've forgotten the guy's name. It's a lot of it's felt like a long time since I played Warhammer, so it's all
that's so good. So just to outline the Royal Mordants for people, that is one Varghulf Courtier, one unit of Crypt Horrors, one unit of Crypt Flayers, and one unit of Crypt Ghouls. So it doesn't, that's just the beginnings of a rounded army to me. That doesn't feel like I'm going to be complaining about what's in there to start off with, which, that's a nice good point to start with. In your hero phase, pick one unit from this battalion wholly within 16 of the Varghulf Courtier from the same battalion. This unit can make a normal move. Now, obviously, that means that you're going to care quite a lot about keeping that Varghulf Courtier alive, but that is a powerful ability, and wholly within 16 is also basically, half the bloody table.
I won't look at it in that case, Lee. I'll do it, and then we'll have a look afterwards, if that's all right.
Oh, that would be interesting.
I'm nervous now because he's obviously put more thought into it than I have. I'm going to put the Terrorgeist in because you do. Like, it's just, yeah. So what you get in Hollowmorn? So reroll wound rolls of 1 made by Hollowmorn Courtier and Hollowmorn Knights that have made a charge. So that affects the Varghulfs, the Crypt Infernals, the Crypt Flayers, also the Horrors and the Flayers, so all the big stuff. You've got Ravenous Crusade command ability. At start your hero phase, pick one Hollowmorn unit within 9 of a hero or 18 of a general. Add 1 to run and charge until your next hero phase. In addition, you can run and charge. So pretty good.
Oh god, it just keeps saying nice stuff. That's that is a bargain of a command ability. That's that's a jetpack, isn't it?
Then you've got a command trait. Add 1 to attacks and damage of the general's melee weapons while he's in 3 of enemy heroes with an artifact of power. That's actually
doesn't
quite
feel like attacks.
That's quite nice on the guy on the Terrorgeist, because basically he's got like 6 attacks at 1 damage, so he actually becomes 7 attacks at damage 2. So that's fairly solid. So if you start seeing me fiddling in my ear and I go quiet, it's because my battery's about to run out. I think obviously you've got to have an Arch Regent. I mean, it's an auto pick. You're also going to take Cruise and Bite.
Did you cover the artifact of power for Hollowmorn, by the way? No. So after this model makes a charge move, you can pick one enemy unit within 1 inch and roll a dice. On a 2+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. It's not once a game. That's not bad either at all. D3 mortal wounds on a 2+, multiple times with an army that's good at charging. I'd expect to get a couple of uses out of that each game, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah, I mean, you could just go for the straight on the dude. I'm looking for that, and then you're probably going to go. I would go Dermal Road probably on him, and I'd probably go Deranged Transformation there. So there you go. What are we up to at the moment? 1340. So obviously got minimum sizes. You might want to buff these up a little bit. We've only got 2 battle lines, so we need to add another battle line in, which is probably going to be Crypt Horrors.
So a Crypt Horrors, do you run them in more? Do you run them in 6s to be resilient? They're kind of those slightly awkward models blobbing along behind the rest of the army, or how I think of them, or standing by objectives. Do you pump them up, or how would you be approaching those guys in particular?
Well, I literally just put them up to 6. I've got 6 Flayers, 6 Horrors, 10 Ghouls, and then the character suite. which is the Vargul for the Abhorrent Archregent and the Terrorgeist, and then Royal Mordant. So then you've got 100 points left. Now, what you could do, which is a little bit crazy, you could take double Archregent, because actually, like,
that's some units. That's some flexible summoning there. 40 ghouls.
Just slightly over, so I'm going to have to take the Flayers down to 3. There you go, 30 points left. So
the Flayers down to 3. Do you not want to have them as the option?
No, because horrors in this army aren't too bad, because they get run and charge with the range transformation. You're not too bad. And then you can take Spectral Host as well, making them fly. So it's one or the other. But the problem is the actual horrors are a lot cheaper.
Yes, times by 2 in particular. Big difference.
Yeah,
80 points difference.
Yeah, and like the good thing about having 2 Archregents is that you're literally getting like 2 free things. That could be 2 Vargals. That could be like 40 goals.
Very flexible summoning, isn't it?
Yeah, I do think if you can take more regents, then why not?
What points do you end up with there with 2 of them?
1970 I'm at the moment. That's
I just, with that army, I just take the Triumph, because reroll saves, incredible. Reroll hits, very useful, and reroll wounds, just super solid. Like you've got a couple of beefy units of 6 horrors in there to make the most of that. You may want to be keeping your Terrorgeist alive. The saves one, I guess that would be absolute money, wouldn't it? Because you can use that really flexibly. That Triumph, someone could pop a buff on a shooting unit, plow all their shots in, and you can go, let's half that, please.
Yeah.
I love 1970. That's reliably a Triumph as well at that point.
Yeah, and like I know Lee's saying he goes with 1 extra Vargul and 20 ghouls, but I personally like, if you take an Archregent, you get 20 ghouls or a Vargul, so it's like you get the extra spell. So double Archregent for me is better, just in my opinion. Yeah. But that's a fairly cool list. I quite like that.
That's an awesome list.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how.
What does that do with its command points, Russ? Because you said that burning out of command points fast is an issue. Is that an issue with that one too?
My headset's just died, so you can fill for a bit there, Byron, after you ask the question. Give you time to think.
That's absolutely fine. So the armies like this, Russ keeps mentioning, and we touched on this at the beginning of the show, that they are thirsty for command points. So, and this is really easy to do. You can write any list out there and be, I just have to be able to make this unit run and charge, and then I have the option of turning this to a 6, and then I'll go in and I'll use this command ability to make them extra fighty, and I'll pop a Triumph. And it could just be that you don't have that many CPs at the start of the game, so it's worth running. If you've got something that gives you D3 command points or anything like that, or every time you use a command point on a 5+, whatever it is, running the minimum, the worst case scenario, and seeing if you can still get an all right version of that combo that you're looking to get off. Always worth considering for this type of thing.
I think in this army, command points aren't so much a bigger deal, because basically you don't have the Gristlegore command ability. Obviously, the main reason that command points are a big deal is because of
summoning.
No, it's because of Feeding Frenzy. So this is the one you get as a battle trait. So it says a command ability after friendly flesh eater unit is fought, and then basically you get to pile an attack again. So they always want command points for that. But you're not doing the Gristlegore fight when you die or that. I mean, I know there is a powerful command ability in Hollowmorn, which is the Crusade, which allows you to run and charge basically and get +1 to run and charge. So like it makes the actual horrors quite fast. And the good thing about the horrors, right, and what you really want to be doing is just hanging around. And
they're trolls, right? Trolls are always underestimated. Like every single version of Age of Sigmar, trolls have been graphically underestimated. They just stick around longer. They're fairly reliable. Are they 3s and 3s these days?
No, you wish they were. They're 4s, but they get to re-roll if there's an abhorrent. This is another reason why having more Ghoul Kings is good. So I believe they're 4s and 3s, no rend damage 2, if they roll a 6, they can reroll hit rolls if there's an abhorrent within 18. So obviously having more archer regents is good. And if you roll a 6 to wound, it's damage 3.
Damage 3, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can heal 1 wound.
Heal 1 wound.
Same as all the flayers
in your hero phase.
So the crypt horrors, because they're battle line in this army as well, in some of the missions where you want battle line to go out and burn or get on objectives, is really good. But like crypt horrors, just they're underrated, basically. Yeah, I wish.
as battle line, I think they're particularly underrated because, you know, if you look at them out of the context of battle line, they're just kind of, you know, probably around what you'd expect. You know, you pay 130 points, you get about a wound for each 10 points, which is fairly average. They hit on 4s and wound on 3s and have no rend, which is going to feel, you know, just completely vanilla. The moment that's a battle line unit, you don't feel so bad about it whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think like you're going to have to lean on the Ghoul King on Terrorgeist to do the work. The Vargulf's got rend. But having 2 Archregents allows you to plop in 2 units of 3 horrors. I mean, I just think you put 2 Vargulfs in, like you just summon 2 extra Vargulfs.
You got the flexibility, haven't you? As long as you've painted them up, that summoning pool that can deal with, that's a toolbox.
That's a lot of healing. And the good thing about Royal Mordants is the speed of those crypt horrors is really fast.
Well, there's 7 anyway, which is, you know, that's just a good move, right?
Yeah, so you can move 7 because you can use the Delusional Discipline ability from Royal Mordants. Then you can +1 to run and charge. If you get Deranged Transformation off, you can even make them fly if you've got Spectral Host off. So you can give them a 5-up ignore from the Terrorgeist. Because you don't have to like launch the Terrorgeist in. You can keep it back and just buff that unit and launch 1 unit in.
Such a threat as well. If your opponent's army doesn't pressure you, they've not got, you know, scary shooting or something like that. Just the possibility, like Terrorgeist is a threat piece from 30 inches away. And that cannot be said for many things with that amount of melee damage. It's also got the shooting attack. And if you can afford to give away the turn with an army like this, which I'd like you to cover actually, Russ, because I think people with armies that feel fragile or don't have aftersaves or stuff, they don't do this. That's a powerful thing to be able to do, right? Or the other version of the question is, how do you get yourself into that situation?
Yeah, I was just looking at Lee's army on War Scroll Builder. It's 110 points under. I don't know if that's because he's got the other formation, maybe. Because I think the formation from the Techless book is, what's in it again? So you have to re-ask your question in a sec. I got distracted. I wasn't listening.
It's all right. I
got multitasking and reading.
I saw Russ's multitasking face go off, which means that I was prepared to repeat that again. It's all good. It's fine. Let me know. Let me know when you're ready, Mr. Robot.
Okay, thanks. I just can't read and listen at the same time.
I can't either. I struggle with the reading bit. Never mind multitasking.
Horrors and ghouls, yeah. So I think Lee's army's probably got the Techless formation in. So he's got a list which is the Vargulf, the Archregent, the Terrorgeist. Then he's got 6 Flayers, 3 Horrors, 20 Ghouls, 10 Ghouls, Royal Mordants, extra command point, and I guess Mortarville's Hellcourt, I would assume, bringing it up to
6 Flayers, 3 Horrors, 3 Horrors.
Yeah, so he's out the Flayers and we'll drop the Horrors down to min.
Sounds a bit minimum. Not many units in that army to start off.
It's more units than my army. But I mean, it's got a lot more command points because you get 50. You've got 2 formations as well. It allows you to put. I think he's got the Bilious Decanter on the Vargulf, which I'm not sure what that does. So a quick look. I'm just interested. Oh, you posted the wrong list apparently. Well, that's the one I'm sharing now, so it's the right list. You had your chance. Sorry. I'm kidding. And I think that's
trying to find it now.
Bilious Decanter. Once per battle, start the combat phase. You can use the artifact if you do add 2 to attacks of the bearer's melee weapons. No, it's okay for a Vargulf. They've got 2 profiles. So
2 profiles, yeah. One of them's fairly high quality. So my question that I was going to just say, Russ, the question that I asked before is, it's all right. So, and this is a hard one as well, because I think people do not like doing this with armies that feel fragile. I know I don't. Like being able to give away a one priority or being able to deal with it, you know, it's really hard. But the power of being able to do that and then keep your Terrorgeist back, you're really good at playing patiently. How do you get yourself into that scenario, or what do you do to be able to make it happen?
You just don't move forward too much. Like, you just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, the way you stop, you mitigate the double turn is you play in what I like to call the Age of Sigmar onion, which is your layers of protection. So you basically put your army in like waves, and what you can do is try and like fill out the table space. So there's nowhere for them in 2 turns to come in, kill something, and then get into him. So if you've got like multiple layers, knowing that you're probably going to get doubled. I mean, it's quite a low drop army if you've taken 2 formations. It's like, so if you've done like the Lee Bromley list, which I quite like actually, even if it was
different game plan,
it's a lot quick. It's a lot. You're going to be a lot more aggressive with it. I think it's just literally all you're doing is you're just making sure you don't get caught out, and like you need bodies for that. You need to create layers, pockets, and then what you do is you almost like spread out the first wave. So you could almost like, if they give you the first turn, you go, right, I'm going to move my ghouls in the formation 9 or whatever their move is, 6, 7, whatever. They move first, then they run up as well. You almost form like a very, very advanced vanguard. And then your units come up behind, and then your Terrorgeist can sit in the pocket behind, and then you can start.
Because it can fly over, and it's unrestricted by everything that's going on in front of it.
You can bring units on around the sides or at the back as well once they move forward. So it's like they're like, oh, I've got to kind of deal with that, but then I can't.
Vargulfs are nice on flanks. I always think that, you know, a Vargulf supported by 10 or 20 ghouls just feels like a horrible surprise always.
Apparently the Vargulf can do 141 damage in a perfect storm. I guess that's going twice with the extra attacks and rolling perfectly. Pretty amazing though. Yeah, I like that. With the 10 models. There won't be 10 models within 3 once you've attacked though, right? So, but yeah, I think it's the Flesh Eaters. I think it's really tempting just on turn 1 just to launch your dragon into their army, and then you just lose it and you're like, okay.
That would be me. That would be how I would play it.
You need to like, I think you almost want to like create if you can use Unholy Vitality on the Flayers. Those Flayers are horrors. That's why I quite like big horror units. With the healing, you can set up the courtiers so they're within, particularly if you don't move much, because when you bring on your 2 courtiers from the backboard edge, they're still within range to heal, which is 9. So you can basically go, well, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this like blobby unit of guys that are tough, and I'm going to use the fact that you can't get to my Terrorgeist rather than putting Unholy Vitality on the Terrorgeist.
Yeah.
Then you want to build up this command point pool. And then what you want to do is get into combat.
Threaten
and then,
someone when it's at like 3 or 4. And
yeah. And then like you get the turn where you go in with everything and you're like, right, he's going twice, they're going twice, spunk your load. And then you get that impactful turn. The good thing about Flesh Eaters I've always found is the movement, the speed. And I think if you lean into speed, that's why I like Blister Skin. That's why I like Royal Mordant's Blister Skin. I get Hollow Morn because the run and charge is really good as well.
Yeah.
I just think there's so many good viable builds. The spell lore is amazing, so you need to get bonuses to cast. I think vanilla Flesh Eaters are really good.
Their item choice is awesome. They got like, it's exciting building a vanilla effect list.
Yeah, I mean Feast Day is just great because you get Feed and Frenzy for free, like, so it's just immediately makes your command points like.
And what is Feast Day?
It's one of the generic delusions.
Generic command abilities.
Well, no, because when you don't take one of the Grand Courts, you get to pick from a list of delusions. I believe it's been a while, and I think Feast Day is one of those, and it gives you Feeding Frenzy.
For Feast Day, once per turn, you can use the Feeding Frenzy command ability without a command point being spent.
There you go.
So that's your turn and your opponent's turn?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's nice. That's some equity.
If it's just what it says, it's how you read it. It sounds like it.
It says once per turn. I just have to check out what Feeding Frenzy says to be able to.
After a friendly Flesh Eater Courts unit has fought in the combat phase, it's on the same page at the bottom. So
sweet.
So you take that delusion. So if you don't get that delusion if you take one of the Grand Courts, basically. So
it's nice that you don't feel pushed into one on the, they're not so good that you would never not consider it. I think that's cool.
I think
It's customized, doesn't it?
I think that one came vogue when command points become more scarce. Once you could just buy 4, you didn't care. You were like, oh, just play
buy 4, or just poop them out on a 5+.
Have the 8th Courts and buy 3.
Yeah. I'll start with 3 and I'll spend 3 and I'll probably get 1 back. Yeah.
Thanks, Gabe. I'm not sure I'm uncomfortable with that. At least donate if you're going to use it for that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think the whole Flesh Eater army is just pretty underrated. It's nice to see, although the Gristle Gore got its hit, I think it's nice because it made other stuff in the book kind of stand up. I think the only thing really that would help them out is a little bit of a points adjustment into the reduction. I don't really see why a Terrorgeist is over 400 points. I don't really see why some of the units are the price they are. Like... Show me your Bellicor. Sorry. I'm doing what we tell people not to, but okay.
It's funny.
Yeah. So like it's a great army, but I wish that like some of the units were a little bit cheaper. I think it's underrated. It's definitely
a small pool of potential models as well. I know you can summon them, which gives you flexibility, but a middle-sized hero or a different infantry unit or another monstrous infantry unit would feel cool.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why I'm probably sure the battalion's not in here yet. It's not in here yet. But this is why I think having a lower drop army is good because it reduces the alpha. But I think if you're playing against alpha KO, they're going to be a 1-drop anyway. So I just don't think it's possible to.
Or 2. It's hard to not be 3 or less, right? Because it's just some books manage to be 1. Some manages to be like, oh, you take this formation and you would possibly add a character. This one ends up more of like, here's a formation that seems sensible, and then you need 2 to 3 additional units.
I think even if you took the 2 formations because you want a Terrorgeist, you're going to maximum be 3 drop is the lowest. So to be viable. But I definitely cheers, happy Easter to you, William, as well. But I think it's a good army. I think like the Grand Courts are viable. Like Hollowmourne is viable. It's better to once I looked at it, I actually got it a little bit confused when we did the text release. I thought it was the Ghoul focused one, which I think is pretty bad because you're leaning into one of the worst war scrolls in the book. So
apologies, guys. It just feels outdated. That one. You can summon them for free. That doesn't feel so bad, but they crumple to most things. They're not that much better than zombies, and
they should just be 80 points, right? I mean,
that's a good answer to why they feel bad.
Look at skeletons and stuff, and you go, well, they're 80. Why Ghouls are 100? Doesn't really make much sense.
Skeleton, they don't have a command group. I think this is one of the things that people don't consider when they make judgments like this. Like the skeleton command group gives you 3 incredible abilities, like minimum.
So
you can't fail charges. You always get at least 4 on a charge or something like that.
6,
and cool, fine. And
I think it's the musician that does that, and I think the banner gives you models back. I can't remember now, but it's
the banner gives you D3 models back.
Then you get like bonuses to your attacks, bonuses to your.
If there's a wizard, or if there's a model with an
death
18
hero within 18, which is all the time and stuff like that. So and you look at the points, you just go, wow. I mean, I know Ghouls can re-roll the hit rolls of 1 if there's a king within range, but they're just really bad. So
they're not very defensive. Their skull doesn't do the stuff. The people around them do the stuff.
I get what you're saying, Gabe. I think so. Hawkeye, I should say, if people don't know what I'm talking about. But I think you don't. I don't think the meta is like there is a lot of shooting, but it's not. I don't think the shooting is that bad. I think you'd catch a lot of people out. I think that's why I like Blister Skin, because it allows you to be quite far away and like you could even put your units like in the corners and then just use command points to like teleport them across the board.
Yeah, I agree with his second statement
Eye of
more.
Hish and stuff. Yeah, there are better combat armies.
There's just better combat armies. There are. I think you've got to play intelligently and perhaps bide your time a little bit more, and just make sure you're not attacking things straight in the front. Because I think people who started with Blisterkin, in particular, when they did start, you could just win by winning and being scary and doing mortal wounds. But you'd have to play with this army with a little more finesse.
One of the clever ways to play Blisterskin with the Dead Watch is when you charge, you intentionally charge in like a dart, so only one's in range to minimize the pile in, and then they pile into you, do a couple wounds. I know you're not really doing much, but if you know you're going into your turn next, you've got a chance at a double, you can then like pile in the hero and then be free to attack. So I don't know, it's like you kind of just got to play a little bit clever and janky, like tagging on 3 knights on a corner to stop pile-ins to maximize and things like that is okay, but you don't have a lot of models. They're quite fragile. You'll run out of points very quickly, so you just got to play well. I think that, like we say, like with Nighthaunt and Flesh Eaters, you're not playing top tier, but no. You will, if you stick with it and you really get to grips with the army, because of the nature of the resilience, the flexibility, the speed,
the synergy as well. There's just loads of loads of 3-point combos everywhere, and people can't know that unless they've played the army a lot.
Yeah, and I think you can really catch people out with the healing. Like I quite like a big unit of crypt horrors, and then like if you've got like multiple courtiers, it's like, because if you figure out the list that's on the screen now, if you've got 3 Vargulfs, that's basically 18 dice on a 5-up, put a horror back in the unit. That unit can become such a tour de force on an objective. Then the terror guys could just clip the corner and just do the damage, where you don't have the rend on the guys, but they're there to absorb the damage. They're just a big meat shield. Also,
we should touch on this for both of these armies if people aren't aware. If you're in combat and you put models back into a unit, those models can go anywhere that lead, anywhere, including bringing other units back into combat. And when you've got fairly large bases, being able to add 3 guys, or I don't know, that if you have a large unit of
you can't do that, Byron. Sorry.
If you're already in combat,
you can only go within 3 of the unit you're already within 3 of, so you can't like drag other units into combat. But you can you not? No, that was changed a while ago. So
okay, so you'd have to charge multiple things, and then you could kind of
So basically, if you're within 3 of a unit, you can put the models within 3 of a unit, but you can't like tail out and tag another unit. But if you had like 12 crypt horrors in a unit, that's like, what is it, 4 wins a model? It's like 48 wins. It's ridiculous. Like,
yeah, it's hard to do.
I think it is. Yeah,
they are 4 wins a model. 4 wins a model, 4-up save. I think.
Yeah. So 48 wounds in a unit. That's pretty good. So there's some you could even just like go, actually, I'll just up that one and go for the big meat shield unit, 36 wounds, and like if you put Unholy Vitality on them, it's pretty solid. You get like an amount of a big meaty shield, and then you just use like the damage on the corners. So like Vargulfs are particularly good at doing damage. So there's a little base print with a lot of damage output. They go in on the corners, they do the damage. You use your horrors to absorb the damage. The healing from the Vargulfs puts models back in the horrors, and they're just chipping away. Yeah. And obviously you've got the reach element as well. I believe Vargulfs have got a 2-inch reach on their claws. I'll double check. And I know the 3-inch reach on the bite. Yeah, 2-inch reach on the claws, so you can kind of put them behind a pocket of horrors, so they can't get many attacks back on them, and they can kind of reach over. You're giving up the bite, but 4 attacks, freeze, rend 1, damage 2. Getting to reroll if you get a spell off. I mean, Vargulfs I think are fantastic. They're just such a good unit. Heal everything in the book, so definitely good. So
decent spell. It's just that powerful, and the spells are good as well.
Yeah, and like their endless spells are solid. Like all 3 of them are good. It's almost like you just go for the list and you're like, oh, I'd like that, I'd like this, but I think that kind of keeps the book interesting because it allows you to play around to find that there's always those choices when you get to the end of a list and you're like, they're all viable choices, but you're playing around with like the formation. Like, have I got 12 of those, or 3 of those, and 9 of those, or 2 6s, or have I got this endless spell or that endless spell? Do I buy a command point? Do I not buy a command point? Do I take a Vargulf, or do I take another Archregent, or do I
like
take
Iron Jaws or big war lists, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's just
I think it's because you've got a
not
lot
too
of
many
units that
but endless possibility.
occupy the same points brackets, so it allows you to have that play. And they've got some good formations. They've got some good synergy. So I definitely think it's a book that rewards good play. But like I say, it's not like S tier. But I still think you can win games of it, and you'll catch people out, especially objective play. So
the further it gets, like past the time where they were the hotness, the more like you could literally turn up to an event now and play someone who's doing really, really well, is on top of their game, and who has never played against Flesh Eater courts. Like, that is completely plausible that it could happen.
Yeah, and they don't, especially if you're like, I'm Hollow Morn and I've got Royal Mordant, and you're like, what? You're like, like
what does that mean? Yeah.
And like sometimes you can really like the possibility of bringing stuff on from the side, running and charging, moving in the hero, moving in the movement. Your opponents, and you've got spells that allow you to run and charge, or get fly, or add to your move. Your opponents just look at your army going, I don't know where to move because I think I'm going to get splattered.
What do I prioritise? I'd like to hit the Terrorgeist, and I can't because it's 30 inches away, but it still might be able to.
But it could still hit me. Yeah.
Yes.
And then like
horrible,
you could put models here, then they could get a 9-inch charge, and then it's all the woulda, coulda, shoulda like stuff where you're like, oh, I don't really know if I can set up here or not, and you get this whole game of like, I don't really know. It's. And I think that's the strength of the Flesh Eaters. They're so flexible to be where they want to be. I think they get weak when they get tied up, and then you know where they are. Then you can just like pile into them and just.
They're an army that does very well when it's on its own terms, basically, aren't they? Like the moment things are against you, they're not fire slayers. They're not like, oh, we love the grind. No. it's not what they're there for.
But they I think as well, like people underestimate the damage, particularly stuff like Vargulfs and like, you know, just like spiky flayers and stuff. The Terrorgeist and stuff's always the big bad that everyone's wary of, and you could use that to your advantage by keeping it back and keeping it like, and just going, I could charge there, could run and charge there. Oh God, I might get the spell off, and then just thinking, oh God, where's the Terrorgeist going to go? As soon as you've put the Terrorgeist in somewhere and it's tied up, you know where it is, and then you can play around it. Yeah, and even like when a Terrorgeist is like, and if you kill a Terrorgeist, you're like, right, now it's mop up time. So I think sometimes it's better to play like he's your quarterback in your pocket, and you're going to try and use your, you know, you're trying to use your offensive line and your wide receivers and stuff, but then sometimes you just rush out and get something. So I think it's almost like the knockout punch, but if you try and deliver that straight away and you miss, it's just that's a game over. It's the same with the Maw Crusher in Iron Jaws. I'm a big believer of it. He sits back and you wait for the game to develop, and then you commit rather than commit, and then the game develops around that.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing as well to touch on is, I know I started off by saying they really don't like shooting, but I've played a lot of times where there's something that was out there that was really strong that my army inherently just couldn't deal with, and one of the ways to deal with it is to just turn up anyway. Like you could play a shooting list in a scenario that really favors your army. You could play a shooting list played by worst player. You can play a shooting list on a table where you've got loads of cover saves from terrain, or, you know, something like that. All of these things have to be in line, and you play a shooting list. For it to be a bad thing. And I did this because I just couldn't deal with Stormcast with my old Order army. Couldn't deal with Stormcast, and I couldn't deal with Change Host, and they're both popular. You know, there were 6 in the room, and there was 100 people in the room, and I had to match up with one of those players and get a scenario which was against me, and have a player who was better than me. And it's quite low odds actually to get all of those.
You need that perfect storm. And I think the greatest thing about Flesh Eaters is just the threat, like the distance between where you are and where you can end up. that distance is so big that any shooting army, you could just stay outside and be like, yeah. But there's that turn where you've got to like, you've just got to go for it, and you just got to go balls to the wall and just hope you get the stuff off, and you hope you get the distance. But it's always the same way. Like I remember seeing like Alario back in the day, and they go like, "Oh, Mystic Shield didn't get it." Then you think, "Oh, so what you should do is just not move her forward," but they still straight away into your army, and you're like, "But you didn't get Mystic Shield off," and it's like the decision should change if you don't get the buff off. It's like if you don't get the 5-up ward save, like the after save on your Terrorgeist, you don't get the D3 attack spell off, don't throw it forward. It's like a really stupid idea. Like wait a turn.
Another reason to take cogs as well as have a movement spell is because you could not get +4 from one, but you get +4 from the other. Or sometimes you can do it with offensive spells. Oh, I didn't get off my defensive spell, but I can give him so many attacks that there shouldn't be anything alive. You know, that's a fine way of doing it. If something's dead, it definitely can't hit you back.
No, exactly. And cogs just allows you to get that extra distance, and that's why I like Blister Skin, because you're getting that extra distance. And again, like with cogs, it's amazing.
If I was playing them,
drop from the sky with a 2-inch to your charge. It's now on a 7. It's like it's pretty good. Like I do, and you could literally be on the other back corner of the board, and then be at the other corner of the board, and get a charge in with your Terrorgeist. Yeah, it's command points, but if you've waited, you've built up those command points. So, yeah.
I don't know what this waiting is that you talk about, but it sounds cool.
It's just called being patient, Byron. Like,
I don't know about that either.
You don't know. You do know.
Every single war scroll I read, how do I get that to do something turn 1?
How do I get... Well, having the option to do something turn 1 is always good, but it's just knowing you don't always have to do it turn 1.
Yeah, well, there's stats out there on what happens if a Maw Crusher gets reroll 1s and how much that does to its damage. And, you know, having more command traits for that reason in this army is just as good as well.
Yeah, but I think we'd probably wrap up the show there. So I'll get the lists into a PDF and I'll put them in on the server and I'll link them in the description below. But thanks everyone for joining us. Let us know
what you'd like us to cover next on one of these guys if you have enjoyed it.
Yeah, and coming up we'll be doing a Realm Hammer update with Tom when he's a bit more available. Obviously we want to do the paint along with the Vampire Underworld's Warband, so we'll schedule that in for a weekend, and then we'll try and do some live streaming on that weekend. And then it looks like Byron wants to talk more Hedonites. There's a few things with Lumineth that on our show that we talked about that I want to correct or add to.
Do a redux.
So I definitely want to do a bit more Lumineth content, especially we did a list show with Les when we had sort of we were sat in the studio at Element and we had some issues with sound, but anyway, Alarith Stone Guard sort of like Alarith Temple in your Metrica, but adding in the Stone and Wind temples together. And also there's a few things around the lore seeker that's quite important to know that basically he might be unique, but he's not named, so you can take artifacts and traits on him. So it's a bit of a weird thing that basically so basically there's unique and there's named. So like Nagash is unique and named, whereas he's just unique. So you can have one, used to them, but he can take Blade of Leaping Gold, Messing
Well, that's exactly what we said, isn't it? We said that there should be. So I guess they covered that one by literally doing.
I just don't think it's 100% clear. Like I had the discussion in the playtest chat, basically, and that was the unofficial response. So cool. We did ask it to be added to the FAQ. Although I was told, isn't it obvious? But obviously not.
So, obviously, reading perfectly isn't either of our strong points if particular words are involved. But we both took that one way.
Still the word other from. No, it's fine. Get stuff wrong. It's fine. It's how you learn, isn't it? When people say, "Oh, what did you read that?" Absolutely. And you go back and reread it, and it's important to consult the battle tome, read what the words say, as people would say affectionately in the group. But yeah, so we will do more of these. Hope you enjoy it. Obviously, there looks like there'll be obviously Curse City was pre-order. We didn't get any complimentary copies, so no one can cause of being like shields.
Is it because I upset people by saying that I didn't care about it?
Probably. They were like off the list then. No, so I have pre-ordered one, so I might do some content around doing the set, painting it in a kind of like Frank Miller grimdark style. I might do, depends how I feel. And then like we might talk about it a little bit, but obviously it's not really AOS, but there's some AOS scrolls in there from my understanding, so we'll probably cover those. And obviously Soulblight Gravelords are coming, and we'll try and get that out on the day. And obviously we've seen Better Core, so obviously there's probably more Broken Realms content coming. So
can't wait for him to be fixed. Like, I've been trying to consider dealing with him as a concept, and
I'm not saying nothing.
If he's going to become like Marathi, oh look, here's 200 more points and one of the best models on the table ever in Warhammer. We'll see. Hope not. One of my regular opponents, he will be bigging him up, and so I'm sure I will get to find out the moment he is a model and exists in his new sense. Anyway.
Okay, we did some Maggotkin lists on the last list tech we did with Lumineth for Broken Realms tech list. So it's the first two, I think. It's the first sort of, they're time stamped as well. So that was broadcast last Sunday, and also we covered the new Nurgle scrolls in the Broken Realms tech list book review. And that's also time stamped, so you can check those out. But we might revisit Nurgle because there are a couple of other things I'd like to talk about. But obviously, there's just so much going on with the Broken Realms stuff that it's hard to keep on top of it. And
events are going to start soon as well. That's another consideration we have. That's both a source of content and a reason for us to be unavailable.
yeah, exactly. So we're obviously, for those that want to know, then obviously we have announced FACEHAMMER GT this year is still planning to go ahead September 11th and 12th. No tickets aren't on sale yet. It's an Element in the UK, and more details to follow. But obviously we're planning to run that event. I probably won't be playing any events, or I won't be playing that one either because I'm running it, but I'll be at that. That'll be my first event, which would be really hard because I'll be like my first event in like a year and a half and not able to play. So get your violins out for me. So no one cares.
Or just buy him a pretty octopus and he won't mind.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully people can be there and we can all be COVID safe and have fun and roll dice at people in anger again. So
yeah, if anyone's worried about attending their first tournament or has never attended a tournament, join the Discord, send us a message or pop something in, and we will make sure that you are chaperoned and have the best experience possible.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So thanks for joining us. Put in the comments below what else you'd like to see. Thanks for all your support. Really appreciate people taking time out on their Easter Sunday to listen to us ramble about Warhammer. And if you like this content, let us know. Hit the like, sub if you haven't. That helps us out a lot in the YouTube algorithm world. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Yeah, see you in a bit, guys. Bye.
See ya.